Hi, welcome to part 4 of our GPS tracking demo. You can see the app on the screen has got a GPS location. In this video, we're going to be able to turn this service on, turn it off, and to be able to configure how often it runs. And so we've still got some refining to do, but we'll finish this up in just a moment. All right, so we have to go and program this button here that is the turn on and turn off. So that's a click listener. Let's go into our code and see if we can put that in our onCreate method. So we'll create a click listener, and then inside there we'll add a new anonymous function or an inline function called onClickListener. So when the onClick item occurs, we will ask the question, is this check switch checked? If it's checked, then we want it turned on. If it's not checked, if it's turned off, then of course turn off tracking. So I'm going to once again create helper functions. So in this function, I'm going to say, let's make a new one called Start Location Updates, which will turn on a bunch of things. And then we'll also have the equivalent turn off thing. So we'll stop location updates. So we got to create these functions separately. So let's go and see if we can get some code helping. I'll click on the first item and we'll choose generate a new method and we'll put it in the main activity. And we'll do the same thing for the stop location updates. So we should see two new methods in our program. So let's make this obvious. Let's put in a statement to say update at one of the text views. It's called TV updates. And its status is to say, hey, we're being tracked or we're not being tracked. So we'll put that in. But that doesn't actually change anything. It just tells the user what's going on. Now, the second statement in this method should be called FusedLocationProviderClient dot, and then we're going to request location updates. And this method requires three parameters. First of all, it says, give me your location request. Remember, that's all of the parameters such as how often this is occurring and how accurate it should be. So we defined that a long time ago. The second item is called a location callback. And we have not created this yet. This is going to be yet another method that will trigger every time this location changes. And then the third thing is called a looper variable. And honestly, we're just going to put the word null in. And I got that from the instructions in the guide of how this is supposed to happen. So this might be a good time to show you where some of this information that I'm putting on the screen is coming from. So I'm getting this from the Google documentation and their tutorials. So you can see that I'm at the page that says we're looking at get the last known location. Let's see if we've done any of this already. So it says you must specify your app permissions, and sure enough, we did that right here. We accessed, they told us to use course location. I used find, but mine's a little more accurate than theirs. Then we've got ourselves a onCreate. We created a location service, so we did that a while ago. We had this same function called get the last known location. So far, so good. Of course, that's just part of their instructions. Let's click on the next and let's see what comes up. So this says how to configure your location settings. Let's see what they've got. They said, oh, don't forget to ask for permissions. And then down here it says set up a location request. And if you look at the code here, this should look familiar. We created things that look like this here. We have ours is 30,000, which is 30 seconds, or 5,000 for the most accurate. And so we've got one of these things already configured. So far, so good. So here's another page that now we're going to get some information from that'll help us. So we're going to get the location updates. So not just when we launch the app, but every period of time. So it says here, make sure that you got permissions. That seems to be a theme in their locations. Okay, then we have a location request. So let's take a look here what they're asking us to make. So create something called a location callback. And then when you have that going, we're going to have a function that goes inside there. So we're going to kind of use this as their model. So let's return to our code and we need to make a location callback. So that has to be declared somewhere. Let's go to the top of our app and let's put it in here in the list of things that are kind of global to our app. So now inside of the onCreate method, we're going to create a new method that is configured here. So that is the location callback. It is a new location callback. And I'll put in some notes here that say that this event is triggered whenever the update interval is met. So this is 5 seconds or 30 seconds in our case. So let's see what's available that we can do inside of the location callback. So I'm going to click on the name, right-click it, choose Generate, and Override Methods. So this will tell me everything that you can do inside of here. The two at the top are the ones that are interesting to me. So onLocationResult is the one that we're going to implement, and location availability would probably tell you whether or not this is actually working. So I'm going to just choose the first one. There it is. So now we have onLocationResult, and we should get the location results right here in this variable. So now I'm going to treat this location result as a new value that we can update our app with. And so I'm going to save it in a variable called location, and then I'm going to pass that on to the update UI values method. So that will just redisplay all the newest values. Now if you look at this, you're going to say, hey, why did you save that as a separate variable in location? You could have just called it inside of the parentheses. Certainly could have. So let's see if we can make this code a little bit shorter. So I'm going to copy this and overwrite location, and then we can delete this entire thing. So we could make it down to one line, whichever you like. All right, so that should work. Let's go look at one more case when we had we asked to turn off the GPS tracking. So we should update a few things here. So this part of the program here is to stop the location updates. And so we're going to set all the properties of all the text values to show location is not being tracked. So that is for the latitude, the longitude, the speed, the address, the accuracy, the altitude, and even the sensor. And finally, at the very end, we're going to say FusedLocationProvider.remove location update. So this is going to say, hey, no longer are we interested in doing the location callback function. So take that out. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at my program and I did it exactly the opposite way that I intended to. You notice here, this is called stop location updates, and this one's called start. And the code inside is totally the opposite. So, oh my goodness, how could I be so dumb? Let's copy this out of here and put it down below. And then copy this and replace the stuff that's up above. And let's see, then we can delete this here. So I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so stopping says no tracking, starting says yes, we are being tracked, and then we should update the GPS. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see if that works. All right, it looks like it's running. So we have a GPS location, and let's check this switch that says, hey, nothing's working, so they all go back. We'll turn it back on, and we got more locations. So we have one more part that's not seems to be working here. It says the address. And so maybe we'll leave that for the next video, but that will be to check to see what the street address is based on these locations above here. So we'll come up with that in a moment.